Welcome back to Brainer Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Hawaii women's soccer head coach, Coach Nagamine, Michele Nagamine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's soccer?
That's actually interesting because I never really thought about being a college head coach when I was growing up. It's not like I was saying, oh, yes, I can't wait to be a college head coach. It actually kind of fell into my lap, and I was coaching high school at Kamehameha, where you have to be native Hawaiian in order to go to the school. So that was my alma mater. So I was coaching there, and I was also the technical director for Leahi Soccer Club. And then I was working full-time at Outrigger Hotels, and I got a call from the Hawaii Pacific University AD and asked if I would consider interviewing for their job, which was a part-time position at the time. And I kind of thought about it and I said, wow, it would be nice to get that experience at that next level. And so it kind of fell in my lap, and I started at Hawaii Pacific. I was there from 2008 until I got hired at University of Hawaii. And the rest, they say, is history.
What was it like playing college soccer?
Oh, college soccer back in the 80s was a really just phenomenally great time. I think the kids nowadays are so much more stressed out and so much more prepared and accountable than where we were at the time, because when it came to rehabbing injuries, I just remember putting ice on everything. Something hurt, we just put ice on it. And now they have all these protocols and contrasting, hot and cold. And it's funny to see how when you think about the old school ways, like there was no concussion protocol or programs designed to get baseline testing and all of this. So, whereas they did a great job of keeping us safe, I think our kids are so much more prepared than we were back in the day. So it was a great time. I had the time of my life playing for Santa Clara.
What was that like putting on that Santa Clara jersey?
Oh, it's especially, to be able to see how the program has grown over the years. It's been just such a privilege and an honor to be a part of such a legacy, and the putting on the jersey for me when I got there, I had actually, I was supposed to go to University of Portland, and at the last minute, my college counselor had mentioned that he really thought that Santa Clara would be a good match for me. And so I was a little late in the process of contacting the coach, who was Mark Narciso at the time. So my claim to fame is I was actually at Santa Clara before Jerry Smith was at Santa Clara, which is quite a statement considering he's been there forever. So, putting on the jersey for me and being able to say that I was a part of, laying down the foundation of just so many historic runs, national championship runs. I take a lot of pride in watching the team play now, and and being a part of their history. So it's a tremendous honor for me.
What were some of your biggest accomplishments in your soccer career?
Oh, soccer career, my biggest accomplishments. I think from a playing perspective, for me, it would be definitely, being one of the captains of our Final Four team in 1989. That was a huge honor because we had such a good team, and just those are friends for life. That when you have a team like that and you go through so much adversity and you get to the Final Four, but we don't win, it was pretty intense, the whole experience. So I would say that playing wise, that's probably the pinnacle of my career as a player. And then as a coach, I don't know, at the high school level, winning state championships, that was really fun. And that was also another big honor because, you have so many different high schools, being named coach of the year for the nation, for the parochial private schools back in 2008. That was another massive honor. So, but, I think for me, the thing that brings me the most gratification is just being able to work with the student athletes, to try to help young women avoid the pitfalls that I fell into when I was growing up. And helping to act as guardrails for my current team now. They're on a journey, they're on a mission to graduate and to launch their careers. And I like being a part of that. And I don't take that responsibility lightly.
What was that transition like from obviously going from being a high school head coach to becoming a college head coach?
Well, I've always been one of those people who was kind of thrown in the deep end of the pool. When I got hired for Kamehameha, I was not very experienced at all. I had no coaching experience no head coaching experience. I had been a volunteer assistant for a couple of seasons, but nothing, even remotely close to the responsibilities of being a head coach. So getting into college coaching, same thing. I had no head coaching experience at the Division II level when I got hired at HPU, and then I had no experience, head coaching or assistant coaching at the Division I level. So I've always been one of those people that's just kind of been thrown into the deep end of the pool. And sometimes I sink a little, and sometimes I take on some water and, almost drown, but fortunately I'm still here. So, making that transition, it was a lot of trial by fire and just learning and trying to expose myself to people who had been involved with the game for a long time. And I think the lesson that I really learned there was, you have to take a chance on yourself to truly see what you're capable of, because I tried to talk myself out of HPU and University of Hawaii, and I have a very, very strong village of people around me, and they were the ones who gave me the confidence to pursue which is now what's now my dream job.
What was that like going to Hawaii Pacific, and what were some of your accomplishments during your time there?
Well, at Hawaii Pacific, we were, it was a Division II program, and it was a commuter school. So there wasn't a lot of real active dorm life at the time. And, they had two campuses. One was nestled at the foothills of the Ko'olau Mountains on the east side of the island. The other one was right in the middle of urban Honolulu downtown. So you got two really different campuses, and it was a bit of a hard sell, to have kids come in. It was very expensive compared to other universities out there. So it wasn't like we were attracting the top tier talent, but we got in some, through our recruiting efforts, we were able to put together some pretty good teams. We turned the program around right away and basically doubled the amount of wins that they had in our first season. And, then we basically elevated that program into, a very competitive contender. And it was not easy, and there were a lot of mistakes that were made along the way, but I do appreciate, the dedication of the student athletes to be able to deal with all that travel, playing multiple games at the Division II level, sometimes 4 games in 8 or 9 days, to save the budget. So it was really intense, and it was a bit of a learning by doing type environment. So, but the accomplishments there, I remember one year BYU Hawaii was making a run into the national scene, and they were ranked on the West Coast. They were undefeated for the entire season, and we were the only team to beat them that year in that early part of the stages until they went to playoffs. So it was pretty neat to be that team, and then getting a staff of the year honors in the Pac West. That was also a big honor for us. So being able to really step out of my comfort zone, I think that was a huge accomplishment for me.
What was that transition like from going from Division I to a from Division II to a Division I coach?
Well, with Division II at the time, they had this mantra that was life in the balance. So, you had 45 days in the spring to do 24 sessions, and it was abbreviated. You had an 18 game maximum schedule. So, the difference would be the amount of time, and then also the intensity of the environments, the games, you're now going from 18 to 20 games, the speed of play, the pressure to perform right at the Division I level, because now you've got more funding, you've got better facilities. Those were the major differences between us and HPU, and making that transition into that level of expectation, that was a bit of a struggle for me, to remind myself, why I was doing what I was doing. And it was, I always laugh, because when I first met with the athletic director, Jim Donovan, who hired me, we were walking to my press conference and he was like, I'm so sorry, but the plans for the new facility are already done, so you can't change anything. And I was thinking, I have a porta potty at the top of a hill, that goes down to the field. So I wasn't really particular. So, I think HPU got really smart with, working with other gyms and fields in the community so that they didn't have to maintain, the facilities at the level that they were. So, they've sold their campus, on the other side, and they've lost that field out there for the most part. So I think they train out there now, but it was such a beautiful setting, because it was just so green and lush, and just the field was set down. But with that much more funding comes a lot more expectation too. So that was a bit of an adjustment for me.
The 2019 season like?
Well, the 2019 season for us was a very good season in the way that we finally were able to get to the Big West Conference tournament. It was something that we had aspired to do for a long time, but we are usually so fatigued by the end of the season because of our travel schedule that it was not the easiest thing to do. When you're dealing with California schools, which are all the other teams in the Big West Conference except for us, they've got a leg up on us in recruiting and player identification, just because they can go out, every weekend and identify players and get to see them play on a regular basis. We would maybe see somebody 2 times, 3 times max, and have to make decisions based on, those very few evaluations. And that does get to be a little bit challenging sometimes. So the 2019 season for us was fantastic. We made a nice run through the conference tournament, and we were a little tired at the end, and we hadn't been there before. And I think, our goal this year is to get back to the tournament and make a run, deep into it. So hopefully we will get to play 2 games in the Big West Conference tournament, maybe 3.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for Hawaii's women's soccer program?
Well, the culture right now, coming out of the pandemic, it was a little rough. I'll be honest and admit that, some of our older players did have a bit of a question mark as far as their love for the game. After coming out of the pandemic, they had just been through so much of a roller coaster of emotions that some people were just not really sure that they wanted to play anymore. And then they're like, oh, well, I love my team and I want to, make sure I finish strong. And they came in and they tried to play, through a really tough situation. And I think that kind of affected the overall play. So what we did was we said, okay, let's go back and kind of hit the reset button, and think about the things that are important to us. Our core values, our number one core value is ohana, or family. And that means that we're not always going to see eye to eye, but we're going to care enough about each other to communicate, our differences, and really try to find that happy medium where people are going to, find a compromise so that everybody's getting something out of it. We want to compete every day. We want to make sure that we all commit to each other, and we really trust the process. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't really want to do, but that's part of it, and, we want to have passion for everything that we do on and off the field. We want to enjoy the ride and take pride in everything that we do. So, that's the kind of culture that we've set up. We want our students to be very 3-dimensional in their development here. During their time at UH, they should become better soccer players, they should become better students, and they should become better people.
Of course, what does a typical game day look like and some of the game day traditions that you've implemented?
Well, the game days for us are a little bit of a challenge as well. We practice on campus on our grass field, but then we have to play our games out at the Waipio Peninsula Soccer Stadium, which is a beautiful facility. The problem is it's 16 miles from campus, going with traffic. So it usually takes us an hour or so to get to our home field. And when we do all of our taping out there, we actually leave our campus earlier than the visiting team leaves Waikiki. So when it comes to home games, and then you don't have a crowd, right, during the pandemic. So it was basically a neutral site. So it was very interesting. But game day is, we load everybody up in our vans. We drive out to Waipio. We do our taping out there. We have our pregame, rituals that we go through. People are listening to music, they're reading, they're just trying to find ways to relax. Some people, like to just close their eyes and do a little meditation. And, we get right into it. We play a game. And then after the game, everybody gets, something to eat. We bring them back to campus. And, it's just one of those things where it's hard because of the travel, not having a facility on campus. Is a bit of a challenge, but we're grateful for the fact that we get to play in front of some really wonderful people and fans out at Waipio Soccer Stadium.
Of course, what is that like, obviously not being able to play on campus, but going to a professional facility and playing where professional athletes have played?
I think it's beautiful and it's a great field and it's nice and big and they keep it in pretty good shape. The hard part is the students and the people who live in town. The students don't get to go to the games because they're 16 miles away and not everybody has transportation to get out there. So we did do a recent renovation of TC Ching field, which is an AstroTurf field or turf field. And our athletic director, David Matlin, had asked if we wanted to play on campus, but it would be a really, really big challenge for us to get other soccer teams to come here and play on turf. So I think part of some of the history and tradition within our program is, taking that long trek out to Waipio and I'm sure the people on the mainland are like, 16 miles, that's nothing. Well, that 16 miles with an accident will take you an hour and a half. So you're talking like LA driving type of traffic sometimes. So we're honored to be a part of that tradition, and just be able to have the opportunity to play. That's where all the kids are doing their club trainings, and everything. So with that said, it is, it is a little bit tough, but we like it very much.
Who are some teams that you play in your conference?
Well, we have 11 teams in the Big West right now. And so aside from us, we are going to have Davis, and then we have Long Beach State, Cal State Fullerton, UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara, Cal State Northridge, Cal Poly. Let's see, we have Bakersfield, UCSD, and UC Irvine. So those are the, I can't believe it, I actually named all 10 teams. So those are the teams that we play against in the Big West.
What is that like, obviously getting to play Long Beach State and Cal Poly?
Oh, Long Beach State and Cal Poly. Well, Cal Poly is one of my favorite road trips just because it's so beautiful, and I'm partial to wine tasting, but that doesn't happen on road trips. But I like, being in the area where, people are just a little bit more laid back and it's very kind of sleepy-ish. So it's a gorgeous road trip. We always go to Cal Poly and Santa Barbara. So that scenically is my favorite, but getting there, that's another story. That's a little bit of a challenge, especially when you're flying into LAX. So, but I love being a part of the Big West. And, when you're playing teams like, Long Beach State and UC Irvine, who have had runs deep into the tournament, that's been, you're always going to get, everybody's best game, because we usually bring a big crowd. So they try to pack their stadiums. And when we play at Fullerton, it's a big, pretty much cavernous former football field. So, getting a good fan base in there is also very exciting. So, even though we complain a lot about all the travel that we have to do, it's pretty much because we just get the recovery portion of coming back from team travel is hard, but we love being a part of the Big West.
What is that like, obviously getting to play those non-conference games and playing like UCLA, Carolina?
Well, those the non-conference games are just so important for us because the Big West is one of the better soccer conferences out there in Division One. We need to make sure that in our non-conference slate, we are playing teams that are going to challenge us, with the right speed of play to be ready for conference. And I think our 2019 season, really showed that we can, we playing teams like Washington State and, UCLA, and then we're getting into conference play. And we start off really well, on a 3-0 run through conference at the beginning of the season. So, that does hopefully, it translates. Now this year, when we were a little bit young, or this past year in 21, when we were a little young and didn't have much experience, playing teams like the Washington States, and the Gonzagas that had really good seasons, that was a little tough for us. We were outmatched from a soccer standpoint, and then also, just the experience standpoint of knowing what to expect and how to prepare. We traveled a lot of freshmen who didn't know how to sleep on the road, didn't know how to eat on the road, and hydration and all of that stuff. So this non-conference slate was quite painful.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play college soccer?
Oh, it can be, very, very time consuming, very overwhelming, very exhilarating, very frustrating. So it's a plethora of emotions really for the young women and young men today. They need to make sure that they're good communicators, that they're consistent in their communication with the college coaches. And it's hard to find that balance of, when am I being irritating? When am I being, when is too many emails, right? So that's kind of a hard thing for players to gauge. And now that they've slowed down the recruiting process and we cannot be, talking or emailing, having recruiting conversations until after the completion of their sophomore year, then it now creates this, it's slowed it down a little bit, which makes the kids feel like, I'm so behind. I need to hurry up and get, committed. And so, my recommendation to kids going through the recruiting process is, do your homework. Don't just email people for the sake of emailing people or because that's where your friends are emailing. Do your research. Think about what you want to study. Think about the things that you really enjoy. You don't like the rain? Well, don't go to someplace that it's rainy. It's a very logical process when it comes to knowing what you want, because you're the only one who knows what you want. So be honest with yourself. Don't, take the advice of your loved ones and your parents around you, but make your own decisions. And don't rely on mom and dad to do all the recruiting for you, because newsflash, if you need to rely on your mom and dad to do all of your recruiting for you, you are not cut out for college soccer. There's too much that you're going to need to be accountable for later on. If you can't even get yourself through the recruiting process, you will never survive college soccer. So work on that.
What are some things that you look at when you're on the road in these prospective student athletes?
Well, when we go out to recruit athletes, I look at a couple of things. I like to watch them warm up. I like to see how they interact with their teammates. Aside from, the obvious, technical ability and tactical understanding of the game, decision-making under pressure, do they understand their roles and responsibilities for the position that they're playing? Can they use both feet? How do they interact with their teammates and their coaches? I was standing on a sideline once where my friend who was coaching at USC at the time, we were standing there and a team, the game had finished and a player who was on the losing team came over and threw her backpack on the ground, and she was right to the side of us. And she was a good player. We had just watched the whole game. She was a good player. And her mother went over and said, oh, honey, it's okay. You guys did a good job, and you played a good game. And she said, shut up, mom. I looked at the USC coach. He looked back at me. We both made our little red line right through the player's name because you just don't do that. If you're talking to your mother like that, what kind of teammate are you going to be? How are you going to talk to me? How are you going to talk? So I think it's very important for student athletes to understand that, you're looking for the total package. You want someone who's going to be self-motivated, somebody who's going to be committed to the process, who's going to be open-minded, and have this growth mindset, and who's going to be respectful of themselves and everybody around them. So it's not just about who's the best player, because that kid was a really good player. And I saw the red line go right through her name from the, of the top program at the time. So that's just some of the things that happen.
Of course, what does the official visit look like at Hawaii for women's soccer?
Well, official visits by the NCAA rules can be 48 hours long. Now, when you live in an area that's a little bit more remote, due to the airline flight patterns and things like that, we can actually have them arrive on the island the night before the official visit starts. So we're allowed to pick them up, get them to their hotel. The visit doesn't start until they set foot on campus. So there can be no entertainment. There can be no, we can basically pick them up, take them to the hotel, and then the next day we would start our visit. So sometimes the visit just starts on a Friday, ends on a Sunday, but it can be 48 hours long. And when it's an official visit, the school picks up the tab, and everybody's going to do their visits differently. But what we like to do is we like to have them watch a training session or a game if there's one going on. We like to make sure they meet with our academic advisors, go sit in on a class, take a look at the dorms, get a campus tour of the lower campus facilities, and then get as much time as possible with the teams. Now, the best part about going to Hawaii for your official visit is our weather is great all year long. So, we've had canoe riding. We've had, they learn how to paddle a canoe, learn how to play an ukulele. So a lot of cultural experiences. One of our kids used to be a professional surfer. She took everybody out and taught them how to surf on their visit. So, these are things that are part of our culture. We're the birthplace of surfing. We have a long storied tradition for water sports, great weather, amazing food. So I'm not going to lie, Brandon, official visits and unofficial visits in Hawaii are super cool.
Of course, what is that like as head coach, seeing them come on the official visit, getting to see the facilities, and obviously going to travel to their stadium that they will be playing at?
It was really very, very neat. 2 weeks ago, we had our 22s in, on their official visits. And when they left, I asked them, so was this about what you expected? Is this, better, worse? Was everything okay? And they're like, so much better. Like they were all really, really stoked on the experience. They love the team. I think the team that we have this year is just such a nice combination of both local girls and people and girls and women from the mainland. So, so we've got a good group of ladies from both Hawaii and all around the United States, and also internationally, Japan, Australia, Sweden. We had one from Iceland last year, so it's been really cool. I think that diversity is one of my favorite things about our team.
What is it like as head coach seeing them get to try on that jersey and feel at home in it?
Oh, the picture taking day, it's really special. When they put on that jersey for the first time and they do all their media day, everybody's just in such a good mood. They're smiling from ear to ear. And what I like to do is I like to go back through my emails to when I first started recruiting them. And I mean, I've got emails, back from 2014, 2015, and these kids are sophomores in high school. They come here and I usually forward it to them. And I say, like, remember this, look at the journey that you've been on and how cool it really is to go from this is my dream to living my dream. So, and then, sometimes dreams, they nightmares, you can, so we try to make sure that we take the steps to set our student athletes up for success, because sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because you just want to be at a Division I program on a scholarship, but with that greatness does come a lot of expectation.
What advice would you give those high school players looking to play college?
I would say that be as much of a self-starter as you can. Pay attention to your mental health and your well-being. Put yourself in situations where you're going to be uncomfortable, where you can test your boundaries and your limits. Don't be content to just stay in your little bubble. Branch out and try to learn new things, and learn about what you like and what you don't like, and try to understand what you're good at and what you struggle with. And the only way you learn what you need to work on is by putting yourself in situations where you're going to be exposed, and for both failure and disappointment. And then how we choose to deal with that adversity is really the most important thing. So you have to try to look at the glass as half full. I have to do a fitness packet. Well, you should look at it as, I get to do a fitness packet because I'm going to play in college. We can't do anything because it's a pandemic. Well, let's focus on the fact that we're here and we're safe. So there's always a glass half full way of looking at things. And the more you practice that every day, are you going to be rise and shine or rise and whine? Because I'll tell you, I don't think I need to tell you which one coaches appreciate more.
What advice would you give those college soccer players looking to go on and play professionally, whether it's the NWSL or a U.S. women's national team?
Well, number one, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, there's a very, very small percentage of people who are playing professionally, but it's kind of like finding a college. There are many, many different leagues out there. And if you're going to set your sights and on the top tier league, are your actions matching your dreams? Are you, not everybody's going to be cut out for the national team or NWSL. And there's a very specific evaluation, and identification process that's going through, that you have to go through in order to achieve that level. Now, many of the teams are doing open tryouts, preparing yourself. If you don't get drafted, prepare yourself, try to talk with people who are currently in the league, talk with your coaches about if there's anybody that they know who's looking for players. We've had several players go pro in the last, handful of years here because they were able to put themselves in the right position at the right time. So timing is usually a lot of it. And once they get that chance to prove themselves and you get your foot in the door, then prepare, study film, on the team, make sure you understand what the style of play that the coach is aspiring to do, and make sure that you understand those roles and responsibilities in that respective formation. So I think, being prepared is the way that you prepare yourself. So it's kind of that, duh, but a lot of people don't understand, how much goes into preparation. And it's not just about the running and how much you're playing soccer. It's very specifically what kind of running you're doing, mental skills training. Are you taking nutrition and hydration properly? So the preparation stage is not just on the field.
What advice would you give those future head coaches that are looking to get into coaching college soccer?
My advice to people who are looking to get into coaching college soccer is network. Network. Don't expect to go out, fire yourself out of a cannon. Be methodical in the relationships that you form and what you try to learn. If you feel that there are certain parts of your game that you need to be better at, then get yourself in those situations where you get to practice what you feel you struggle with. Try to approach everything with an open heart, an open mind, and an open hand, because you'll make many more friends with an open hand versus a closed fist. So I think there's a lot of people out there who are willing to be mentors. I am a part of a few different really big mentoring groups through the She Believes Championship mentoring program there, and then also with the United Soccer Coaches Association. So you have to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be so willing to take the first thing that comes along if it's not a good match for you. So and lastly, don't take yourself too seriously. Enjoy the ride.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Hawaii Women's Soccer Program at?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Michele Bud. That's MicheleBud. So my two names, Michele, and then my nickname Bud. So at Michele Bud on Twitter, and then Michele Nagamine on Instagram. And our team is at Hawaii W Soccer on Twitter and Instagram. So you can find us there, and we are quite entertaining, so we will not disappoint.
Thank you again, Coach Michele Nagamine, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head women's Hawaii coach.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It's been a pleasure.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.